Thank you. Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, good day, good noon, good night, good dawn, good dusk, good desk. Welcome to The Long Shot. It is a podcast. I'm one of your hosts. My name is Sean Conroy. With me on the show, as ever, the other host, Amber Kenny, is here.
Hello. I made a martini for the occasion.
Nice. So did I. I am also having a martini. Gin martini, I'm assuming?
It's vodka.
Vodka martini. Okay. So not a real martini.
Sure. Full disclosure, because Jeff gave me like the martini glasses and the vodka and the olives, and even there was a stick, but I took it out because it was for the whole, but we already had vermouth at home. So he's like, oh, I don't need to get that because I had gotten vermouth for Manhattans for our New York date, but that's sweet vermouth, not dry vermouth. And it's so anyway, point is, this is the first actual martini that I've had since we've got.
So for this one, you actually got dry vermouth.
Exactly.
Prior to this, you had been using sweet vermouth, which is,
I mean, I had one and it was not
the same.
Not the best.
Yeah.
Not with an olive. That's
there are things in conflict there.
Yeah.
Could I get my tea with lemon and honey and milk and hot sauce, please?
Right.
So now do you feel like you did a good job with this one?
Yeah.
It's good.
I made it dirty. I added some olive juice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, I love olives. I didn't eat olives for my entire life until a couple years ago. And now I'm a huge fan.
I love them too.
I'm trying to be more open in my old age, allow experiences to happen. I had recently, I don't know if you'll remember this.
Banana bread and mayo.
Well, close, but what's the third one? I've talked about it on the show.
Banana bread, mayo.
It's not just banana bread. It's anything banana flavored.
Yeah. I'm gonna.
I don't blame you because it's much more. It's much more seasonal.
Eggnog.
Close, different holiday.
Okay.
Think Pilgrims.
Okay, cranberry sauce.
Close, but I like cranberries. I've always liked cranberry sauce on my.
You don't like stuffing.
I love stuffing. Come on, stuffing is just bread with like.
Right, that's why I was like, "Are you insane?"
Yeah,
it's just like butter and bread and
right
flavoring.
I bet people at home are just losing their minds because they know what it is.
Well, it's not mashed potatoes. You like mashed potatoes?
Yes, especially from a box.
So is it just turkey?
Mm-mm.
Oh! It's like pumpkin pie.
Yes, pumpkin. Yeah. Yes. And so I have not had pumpkin pie, but I've had a few recently. Just randomly, I have had randomly made myself pumpkin flavored protein shakes. They're not bad.
Why though? If you don't like pumpkin, like it feels like a weird self-inflicted.
Yeah.
And it's like, and I would argue that protein shakes are one of the worst ways
versions
to have a flavor.
Yeah.
So it feels like you're really punishing yourself.
Well, I mean, that is one thing that I'm good at.
Were they just on sale? Like why even buy the pumpkin?
No, it's like I tried to put together a bunch of stuff to eat and not like limit the number of calories out. Like I'm trying to be conscious, Yeah. It's not easy. It is not easy. Did I talk about this before that I was doing that?
No, you talked about together working out a lot.
No. So now
doing meal prep, but not calorie restriction.
Oh, I think I did talk about it a little bit, but yeah, meal prep. I was always like, here's the things I'm going to eat for the next 9 days.
Oh, and then
it's the same thing every day. Yeah. So I'm like in between that, and I'm like, I put down a bunch of recipes, and one thing was like, I read this whole thing about like, if you're trying to do that, these are some, they're not like store-bought protein shakes. In other words, it's like,
like you got like pumpkin puree. And...
Correct. I made
that
a shake
actually sounds better. I was picturing like
Nutrifast. Yeah.
That's why I was like, wow. And you
no. Like pumpkin flavored chalk drink.
Yes, but like too sweet, but also not flavorful.
No, this is like
weird combination.
Yeah, no, this is like pumpkin puree with pumpkin spice in it, but also frozen bananas and chia pets. And
I've been eating a lot of chia seeds lately.
Yeah,
they're good. Your teeth.
They're good. Yeah, they're good for you though. Flaxseed, like all kinds of like healthy bullshit. You have
a blender?
I do. Yeah. And it's getting way more use recently than it ever got before.
All those margaritas.
I make my martinis in the blender. Very, very dirty, but very.
I want a blended martini.
Yeah. I'd like it blended, not shaken or stirred. But anyway, so I've opened myself up to pumpkin, and I do put bananas in it. So in a sense, it's banana flavor, but with real bananas, which is just different to me.
Right.
And I did buy like a ton of, I forget what I even fucking talk about on this show, but like I went to the supermarket and bought like $200 worth of healthy food. Like some of it was just for the week. And then, when you're trying to get healthy and you're like, I'm going to buy this big bag of chia pets and this big bag of flax seeds and, all the stuff so it's like way more expensive than it would be on a normal week. But anyway, I get up to the counter with all my healthy foods, and there's a guy behind me, and he's on I didn't realize this at first. He's right behind me, and he's like, you think about, and I just turn around and I go, excuse me? And he's like, no, I'm talking on my phone. Like he's just on speakerphone with somebody talking full volume. But then I thought it was funny to keep answering him when he was talking. So he said something else, and I was like, I'm sorry, what? And he's like, no, I'm but what I didn't anticipate was then I would become part of his conversation with whoever he was talking to on the phone, because then he was like, I'm over here, this guy's buying all this healthy food. Yeah, how long you been eating like that? And it was literally the first time I had bought that much healthy food.
And you're like, oh, years.
Yeah, I was like, a couple months. And he goes, is it working? Yeah. And I was like, it's, I know it doesn't.
And you're like, I'm on the phone.
Right. I'm talking to somebody else. But anyway, it just goes to show, don't talk to people when they're on the phone because they might talk back.
Jeff does the grocery shopping because I'm a spoiled princess, but I will write out.
And he also has to measure all the ingredients correctly.
Oh, I have an update about that.
Okay.
He was like, I don't do that, Amber. I don't. Like the first time maybe, and then I eyeball it. And he's like, tell Sean his theory is bunk. And I was like,
it's not though. It's not. I mean, that's why he did it in the first place, but go ahead.
So I make a list of like things that I might want for the week. And this week I asked for almond butter. And then when he was at the store, I texted him. I was like, oh, also peanut butter. And he's like, I just want to make sure I have this straight. You need almond butter and peanut butter? And I was like, yes.
I'm going nuts with the nut butters.
But they have different tastes.
Yeah, absolutely.
That way, my breakfasts don't. I go insane if I have the same exact meal every day, and that way sometimes it's peanut butter, and sometimes it's almond butter, and sometimes it's honey, and sometimes it's fruit in my oatmeal or on my waffle, or what I'm saying.
Yeah. You live life basically. You enjoy the day to day. As opposed to like, I would like things to be the same over and over. I am into repetition. I would like an existential crisis to confront me every time I open my eyes. And that was where I found myself, was like, oh God, do I have to eat this the third day in a row? So like for dinner tonight, I made like spicy shrimp and pasta in a cream tomato sauce.
That sounds amazing.
Except the sauce wasn't with real cream. It was with cashews and water mixed up in the blender to give it some. It was fucking amazing. And I made enough that I have another serving, but it doesn't mean I have to have it 5 nights in a row.
Right.
God, my life has gotten so much better recently. Shrimp and pasta in a tomato cream sauce with asparagus in the sauce.
And it's spicy.
And it's got Cajun spice in it.
Where are you getting these recipes?
Just whatever. I have 8 million cookbooks because cooking to me is like writing. It's like the thing that I go, if I just get the right book and the right method, it'll be easy after that. And it just isn't. But now I'm like,
still is cooking and it still is writing.
Yeah. And now I'm like, okay, let me just figure out, put together a list of what I'm going to make these next couple of weeks. And then what ingredients I need to make for each of those things. And then there's always like a couple of things that I'm like, I couldn't find it. I don't know where to get that. And then I find myself like, for example, you mentioned almond butter. Where do you get that? No, I'm kidding. I know where.
Oh, I was like, I've got a couple leads for you.
Supermarket. But no. The reason I say almond butter is because I couldn't find it. I'm sure this is easy to find, but like, I'm just so used to where everything I always get is in the supermarket that if I have to go outside that area, I'm like,
lost in the woods.
Yeah. And then I'll ask somebody about like 5 different things, but I'll always forget 2 more or whatever. Anyway, tahini. It was like, where's the tahini?
Yeah.
And I couldn't find the tahini. Then I find myself on the search engines, Alta Vista, Ask Jeeves, whatever, going, what can I substitute for tahini? Almond butter. So
because tahini is just sesame seed butter, really, right?
I guess, yeah. I don't pay that close of attention. So and I guess I have a bunch of sesame seeds. I could just mix those up there's a million options, you know.
I love this because it feels like a combo that Jamie would love and that Jamie would maybe be having a few years ago and you'd be like, this is boring.
I find that to be untrue because Jamie's version would just be listing off the things he had. He'd be like, sure. I had this, I had this, I had this. But I will tell you that I got an email this week from somebody who listens to the show. And this is always like, I get it, but it's also disappointing to get this, where this person was like, I think I'm actually making things worse right now. But because we talked about Joe and Jamie a couple of weeks ago, they were like, I didn't realize until this episode that really I'm still listening because I want a reunion episode. I don't, blah, blah, blah.
Interesting.
And I was
we're like at a year without Joe almost.
Really?
Because I think the last episode he was on was like, this is Smudgy. And and on Friday, I will have had Smudgy a year.
Joe was always a big fan of the Easter Sunday episodes that we did.
Sure.
And that's this Sunday. So
maybe he'll come back. We don't even tell him when
the resurrection of Joe. Well, we did for a while. I was putting him on the emails.
We can't, he couldn't come back at this point without a conversation. Like, he couldn't just sneak in.
Right. He couldn't just show up because we've told security not to allow him in. And same with Jamie. I did email Jamie about some other stuff 2 days ago, 4 days ago, 5. So I said, when are you going to come back on the show? And he immediately has not responded. So we'll see. Who knows?
I walked basically to his theater today.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Smudgy and I were on a roll, and we made it all the way to Wilshire.
Mm-hmm. How far is his theater from your place?
I want to say a little over a mile, maybe 2 miles.
People are going to be able to hunt you down now. They'll draw a radius around the theater of 2 miles and like where
I've given a lot of clues.
Where do they film Channing Tatum
there's
movies?
a garden in front.
Yeah, right.
But yeah. Smudgy
Amber,
was tired
I'm a fan of the show. Open up. So you guys made it all the way to Wilshire. That's long.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was a long walk.
And is there ever a moment where you're like, Jesus, I'm gonna have to carry this dog back?
No, he won't let me carry him. But there was I don't know. Have you done a lot of walking in Los Angeles?
You know, most of the time when I go walking, I walk just straight up the hill and then around. There's like just a 3/4 mile roundabout up there. So I just walk around that and I don't go anywhere else because I know it's not going to be overwhelmed with traffic.
Right.
And it also means, I mean, where I live, there's so much. Once I get up to the top of that hill, I don't have to keep walking up and down hills.
Right. You have so many hills in your neighborhood.
It's so crazy.
Like I was thinking about that. Like trying to start jogging. Like
it's impossible up here.
Yeah, you have to drive somewhere.
Right. Like I and that's exactly what I was doing when I was still running, which I haven't done in a while, was driving to the reservoir so that it was nice and flat because it's just nuts up here.
Well, yeah.
Like, even if I go, what I could do, and which I did a few times, was go over to the road that goes up to the reservoir. But even that is long, slow,
it's
grade
long, steep.
up. Yeah. So, but then I would sprint on the way back down. Like
and you're like look at me go.
2-mile sprint. Yeah.
But downhill, I find pretty hard. Not like cardiovascularly, but on your muscles. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's just not easy.
Everything's hard.
I agree. I think the world is a difficult place. That's why I want to switch up what foods I'm having so I can have Cajun shrimp pasta with a cream sauce.
Butter.
Yeah.
Oh, but what I was going to say about walking in Los Angeles is there are streets that you can drive down every single day and feel like you know. But once you walk down it, it's like, where am I? It's a completely different universe. And case in point, today we were walking down Rampart, which is a big street, and we passed 6th Street, which is also a very big street. And then there was just chickens. There was loose chickens on the sidewalk. I was like, what?
You're talking about the Rampart and 6th chickens?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like neighborhoods have a very different feel on foot than in the car. And this is not a new observation, but check it out, walking.
It's good for you. Good for your brain. Good for your body.
Good for the environment.
Good for the environment.
Hello.
And the environment is not in good shape.
No,
it needs all the help it can get. My brain is very fucked up and always thinks of like the worst possible consequences for things. And I don't mean in terms of big things. I mean in terms of little things. So anytime I go to, there's a supermarket over here that's like the super expensive supermarket over in Franklin Village. And then there's like the, Birds is there and the Oaks. Like if I'm getting something at 2 of those places, I'm like, going to park in the supermarket parking lot and walk from there. But they have a security guard hanging out in the parking lot to make sure that people don't abuse the privilege, the extreme privilege of parking in the supermarket lot. So in my head, I always rehearse like what I would say. If I park in the supermarket, go to the Oaks and get like a coffee and an egg sandwich or something. And if I'm coming back and the security guard's like, what's up, motherfucker? I saw you parked here and you went to that. You should have parked over there or found another place to park. That's what I would do is go, I'm just trying to help the environment, man. If I don't get back in my car and drive around, then that's me doing a tiny bit.
Yeah, you're welcome.
They might still, take me downtown, but who knows? It could
downtown. I used to live in that neighborhood, as you remember.
I do.
And there was at least once, it might have happened more than once, where I would come home from work and I was like, oh, I just need to get something at the grocery store. And it's easier to just park in the grocery store lot. But then I was so used to walking to that grocery store because it was so close that I would walk home with my groceries. And then the next morning I'd be like, someone stole my car because I just left it in the grocery.
Yeah, I used to park there all the time when I was doing ASCAT shows and do like a subterfuge of like getting out of the car and ducking down and walking around the other side so nobody can see that I'm coming.
And then coming back with like a grocery bag.
It was never a problem, but for decades I parked in that lot illegally. But I also always felt like I shop there so much and I pay 3 times normal prices for everything. So,
oh my God. It's crazy that like the poorest I've ever been, that was my grocery store. Like it
really is. I mean, that is
any sense.
That is funny. Like, because there's the Clip Joint over here at Highland and Franklin, and this is also on Franklin. It's just like a mile further to the east. And
if you want to pay too much.
Yeah.
Go to Franklin.
Crazily expensive. By the way, today's show is sponsored by Gilson's Supermarkets. Come on in and blow your entire paycheck.
Right. It's fun. It's pleasant to walk around, but yeah, it's not cheap.
Right. All right. Well, with all the food and supermarket and walking stuff out of the way for now, let's find out what's going on with Amber.
Sure. Today I got some upsetting news or expected. You'll see. Jeff
I'm here. Yeah. Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah. You'll be there. Jeff went into the office to work.
Mm-hmm. Is he doing that every day now?
No. He went on Tuesday this week, and I don't think he went at all last week.
He didn't come home after Tuesday?
No, he came home. He's home.
I'm just kidding. Imagine I just keep interrupting you, and I'm like, what? It feels like
I can imagine.
Yeah, it feels like the good old days. No, I would interrupt to make jokes, but I would not interrupt to anticipate what you were going to say next. That's a different issue.
Oh yeah. So he went into.
So then you went into work today?
No. I haven't gone into the office this week at all, but I had a very busy day at work. There's a lot I could get into. I probably won't. We'll see. But I was working, and Jeff came over and he's like, just my coworker just told me that they are positive for COVID, and that coworker I was in close meetings with all day on Tuesday. Today is Thursday, so that's been 2 days. And
telling you that he was having an affair with his coworker?
No, that he's been exposed to COVID, basically. Yeah. And it's just like, okay, so like, what do we do now? Like, are we now both on like quarantine? Self-imposed lockdown?
Mm-hmm.
And I guess he called, like, they have an HR COVID desk.
Yeah.
And he called them.
HR COVID desk. Go ahead, please.
Exactly. Well, he came out and he was like, oh, I'm not going back to the office. Maybe ever. Like, because he told them the scenario.
Mm-hmm.
And they officially, like, okay, you're cleared to go back to the office.
So they have no idea what's going on.
Right. They didn't ask if he tested. They didn't ask. They only asked if he had symptoms. And they were like, yeah, you could go back, just wear a mask. And he's like, oh, okay. Like, it's the Wild West.
Which is what's happening with anybody who's even conscientious enough to call the HR COVID desk.
Right. And he's like, I don't trust that anyone else is even being as cautious as that. So, and like, I have things that we both have things that we were going to do next week. And it's like, maybe we're not anymore. I don't know.
Right.
I have, it's our good friend Lampy's wedding.
I know Lampy.
it's like a month from now.
Mhm.
And I had that thought before I even on my walk.
That's going to be in what? Antarctica? Where's she doing? She says like a destination wedding,
Mexico.
Right? Yeah, Mexico, right.
Like close to Cancun.
Mm.
On my walk all the way to Wilshire, I had the thought, I was like, I just want to make it to Lampy's wedding. Like I don't want anything to fuck that up. So yeah, so Jeff already took a test today, like one of those home ones that we've talked about, and he was negative, but it might be too soon for it to show up. And also those aren't always accurate. And he also might be fine. He was wearing a mask most of the time, but it's all just very scary and weird. It feels like we're in a wave. Again, I don't think I'm saying anything that's breaking new ground, but we're in this weird wave where it feels like I know more people than ever that are positive, but the world is like more lenient than ever. Like it's this weird,
well, it's also, yeah. And it's also the thing of like, people are positive, but they are vaccinated. And
right. It's not as deadly.
They're not dying. They're just getting sick. And what the long-term effects will be, we'll see. We don't know, you know? So that has made a lot of people go, who cares? You get it, you're done. And it's like, I don't know.
But people get reinfected, I've heard. Like it's not just a one and done situation. I don't know. But it's weird, man. We're all just pretending like
totally
it's over.
Weird. Yeah.
And it's not.
It's not anything.
And I'm guilty of it. Like there's sometimes that, like, you know, I went to Vegas. There's times that I just want to live my life.
Yeah.
Not in fear and not just sitting in my living room. So I can't begrudge people the choices they're making to live their life. But at the same time, I don't know how wise it is. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, it is hard to know. And I feel like, you know, I live by myself. I mean, I could go on and on about that and how difficult it is.
Do it.
But like everybody has different parts. Like it's easy for me to go, I'm isolating. I'm not going to see anybody. I'm not going to deal with anybody. I'm not going to be infected by anybody. I'm whatever. But there's other people who have not that situation. And, you know, for example, I think about some of my brothers who have wives who work and kids who go to school. And it's like, it's just a totally different situation. Yeah, it's
control.
No. Yeah. And, you know, I think I don't know this, but I'm guessing there's probably an element of like, there's nothing I can do. So I'm just going to hope for the best and, you know, damn the torpedoes and full speed ahead. And then like, I have a wedding to go to on Saturday.
Oh, fun.
Not Lampy's because that's in a month, but I'm going on Saturdays and I'm like, should I do this? Should I not do this? So I actually called not HR COVID. I called the HR Puff and Stuff hotline and all of that just to get to saying HR Puff.
Is there no wedding?
There is a wedding.
Yes. Okay. I was like, yes. What is true? What is not true? I can't.
Yeah, no, there is actually a wedding. But yeah, just who the fuck knows, you know?
Yeah.
Wild times. But you're vaccinated, I'm vaccinated. So far that seems to be, I mean, there was that whole thing where those people went to that dinner down in DC and they all got infected, but none of them is having ill effects, you know, like 72 people at that dinner got infected or something. Do you know what I'm talking about?
No, but
it's called the Gridiron Dinner. It's a big political dinner. So there's like cabinet secretaries and cabinet makers and somebody who has kitchen cabinets. They're all getting infected and all of that just for a cabinet joke. No. This is true. This is actually relevant. That a bunch of them got sick and they're making a big deal about, oh, these people shouldn't have gone to this thing. But then it's also like, but they're living their lives and they're all fine because they're all vaccinated, you know?
Right.
which of course we know that was weaponized because it was like, well, people are vaccinated, they're still getting sick. Who cares? They're getting infected. Like who cares if they're, vaccinated if they're still getting infected? Well, because they're not fucking dying. That's the difference.
Right.
Most of them. Anyway, this shit is not over and it's not going to end anytime soon, I think.
Yay.
Yeah. I mean, I have things, whatever, stuff going on in my life where I'm trying to set up meetings with a variety of people.
Yes. Very important. Hollywood
So
guy.
important.
Mover and a shaker.
But like, it makes a difference when you're pitching stuff to people, whether or not you're in the room with them.
Right.
We're in this weird situation where it's like, are we going back to meet in person? Are we meeting on Zoom? One of the people I have been working with lives very far away. And they're like, are we going to fly him in? Because, it would be weird to like fly somebody in so they could sit in their hotel room and be on Zoom with people in a meeting.
Yeah.
And
that's weird.
So anyway, it's all, all I'm saying is my career is going very well. That's
blessed. So blessed.
Yeah. Blessed and stressed. HR puff and stuff. Please help. So anyway, I guess you'll see if you get COVID.
Yeah, we'll see. And yeah, it's just a bummer. It's not because as much as I know intellectually that it's not over, you still kind of just want it to be over.
Of course.
And when you go to the office for one day, you're like, oh, like maybe it's kind of over. Like it's hard for your brain not to feel that way.
Everything seems fine. All right. Anything else? Checking in? Possibly sick. We'll see.
Possibly sick.
Going to a wedding in a month. Would love to talk food with Jamie.
Yes. I think that's enough. What's going on with you?
Okay. What's going on with me? Well, first of all, can I just read a series of tweets that happened today only because I think the end is so funny? And I'm probably wrong because I usually am about things like this.
Sure.
And this is mostly not even me. There's a guy who actually sends, I think I talked about him before on the show. He sends out a newsletter every day of what's going on just in the world, usually like 10 items of like, you might be interested in this, and this. And I don't read it every day, but when I do, I always get a kick out of stuff. And he's very clever. He writes funny headlines for everything, but then it's also real, actual issues and real important stuff. He calls himself the editor-in-chief of the internet. His name is Dave Pell. And he's on Twitter at Dave Pell. And today,
he sponsored this episode.
He sponsored this episode along with Gristides and the A&P. But so there's this whole thing, and I don't even understand it, what's going on with Elon Musk and Twitter, and he's
trying to buying
Twitter or not buying, or he's not allowed to, or he bought a bunch of shares and he's going to control it and get Trump back on Twitter because he doesn't understand why that's bad. And he's free speech advocate, except if you work for him, you're not allowed to say stuff. There's all kinds of
right.
And he has 20.
Well, and also like there's a whole argument theory that he wants to buy Twitter just because people are mean to him on Twitter, kind of, like
maybe. I'd like to buy Twitter for that too. But anyway, so Dave Pell tweeted out today, one of the ironies about Elon Musk is that he'll use the fortune he made from liberal environmentalists to benefit libertarians and Trumpists. Dave Pell, by the way, is a guy, and I've definitely talked about this before. His father was a Polish Jew who fought in the resistance in World War II and only died within the last year or two. So was alive as Trump came to power and was very upset about it. A guy in his 90s who lived through World War II.
He's like, I've seen this show before.
Yeah, he was like, this is fucking crazy and something needs to be done about it. So Dave has been very anti-Trump since the very beginning. I call him Dave, Mr. Powell. So anyway, he wrote this thing about how Elon Musk is going to use his money to benefit libertarians and Trumpists. And we were talking about this a couple of weeks ago, how it doesn't matter what you say, people will find a way to pick it apart, right? Mm-hmm. So somebody tweeted back to him, Trumpists? I've not heard that one. Maybe it's regional. We've been calling them Trumpsters, which is like,
okay, you know what he meant.
Yeah, right. Like it's a way of correcting him, I guess, and going, we've actually been calling him this other thing, and you should do that too. So Dave wrote back, well, I decide, so it's Trumpists, which I thought was hilarious. And then that person wrote back to that tweet and wrote, but Trumpster rhymes with dumpster. So keep going. Like it, I'm not going to let this go. I think it should be Trumpster, not Trumpist, because it's a better word. It rhymes with dumpster. So he wrote, but Trumpster rhymes with dumpster. So I wrote back, this is where it gets stupid, because I think this shit is funny and then nobody else. But I wrote back, but Trumpists rhymes with trumpets. And the person wrote back, almost, like didn't follow the logic. Just thought I was like somebody who didn't understand rhymes.
So close, buddy. Good job.
I mean, it almost rhymes. You're doing okay. So anyway, I got a kick out of that. So I did stand up this week for the fourth time since the beginning of the pandemic, which was really fun. And I just missed performing. And the other thing that happened at that show was at one point the guy, again, it's just a super weird show that's in a tiny black box theater with a very small audience and whatever. So ultimately, who cares? But at least it's doing something, And the guy running the show, who's actually somebody that I know from UCB from years ago in New York, was doing weird stuff as the host of the show, which is fine with me. People should be allowed to do whatever they want. But he was kind of calling people up on stage to improvise 2 by 2. Like there was an improv group that was going to perform, and he was having them come up 2 by 2 and like controlling their improv scene. And so at a certain point, there was another guy there doing stand-up who probably a lot of people would recognize, although not necessarily as a stand-up, like a sitcom actor. And the guy hosting the show was like, I don't know if they're going to go for this, but why don't we have this guy and Sean come up and do a scene together? And I was like, I'll do it. This is in my head. I didn't say this out loud. I was like, I'll do it, but I won't do it unless, like, I'm not going to force this other guy into doing this if he's not comfortable with, like, I don't care because I've known this guy for 20 years. So I know it doesn't matter if he's being weird, it'll be fine. But I don't know what this other guy. So anyway, the other guy goes, yeah, let's do it. And he jumps up on stage and I went up there with him. We improvised the scene. It was like a 5-minute scene, but it was this is the first time I've improvised in over 2 years. And I was like, God, like, I just miss it so much, and it's anyway, it was nice to do it for 5 minutes. And I would love to get back to doing it on a regular basis. I kind of realized in that moment what an effect it has on my psyche. Yeah. Jinx, no self-service. But Amber Ruth Kenny. That's how you break the jinx. You can't speak until I say your entire name. That's how we did it in my neighborhood growing up, was if you jinx somebody, they can't speak until you say their whole name. And if you don't know that person's middle name,
you're screwed.
They're screwed because nobody can say it and they can't say it themselves. But luckily I knew you.
Thank you.
So you're allowed to speak. Anyway, it was just a fun moment and highlighted, which I knew, like, I'm aware of it, but it's very present in that moment of what I'm missing out on when I'm not doing that, you know?
Totally.
And even, I mean, yesterday I did an episode of Improv for Humans, which is always fun, but it's just not the same because you're not doing it in front of an audience. You're just kind of goofing around with your friends.
And it's not whole body, right? Isn't it?
Right. You're just sitting there. Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And that's different.
Mm-hmm. It's very cerebral. Unless you get out of your chair and jump around, you know, which is hard on the microphones. So anyway, that's my checking in is let's get this fucking pandemic over with so we can get back to doing improv in front of live audiences.
I love it.
What do you say we go right into parting shots?
Okay.
Why don't we start today with you? Go ahead.
Okay, great. So I finally I've been expecting it for some time, but like a weird interaction with someone because I'm a dog owner. And I've expected it for some time. A, just I have a dog, but B, I have a difficult dog. So like I've expected, you know, like a anger, some sort of weird confrontation. But this was not what I had anticipated. So I was walking Smudgy. It was evening. It was around the time he poops. And we're always...
Poop time, I call that.
Yeah, but we also want him to poop because then we could relax and go home. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, we have to kind of either keep
get all
walking,
the way to Wilshire, yeah.
Right. Or we either have to keep walking or we go home and we're on high alert and we might have to walk again. Like we can't just like put on our PJs and watch TV. So it seemed like it was poop time. Anyway, it's this loop that we do all the time. It's very close to my house. It's nowhere near Wilshire. And there's this stretch of grass across the street from an apartment building. And it's pretty long right now. And so Smudgy was in there and I was watching him like a hawk because I want him to poop and I want to witness it.
You want to swoop in and get his poop when he poops, like a hawk gets a rabbit.
Yes,
you know?
Yes. But he was in there and he was, you know, doing dog stuff, smelling, walking around, smelling.
Playing poker. Dogs play poker, right?
Playing lots of poker. He did some peeing. But he was in there a while, like smell. Mm-hmm. He'd find something interesting to smell, but no poops happened.
Damn it.
I know. And this whole time there is a man working on a car on that curb. So like right on the other side of the grass. Mm-hmm. And so when Smudgy's finally done with his smell of that grass and we're walking on, the guy who's fixing the car goes, "You're not going to even pick up his poop?" Mm. And I was like, "Sir, he didn't poop." And I just kept saying that basically over and over again. He was very like angry and mumbly, but he was like, you know, you call them your babies and you baby them, but then you won't even clean up after them. And I was like, "Sir, I assure you, he did not poop." And he was like, "Yeah, right." Like it was, anyway, I finally was like, we're not getting anywhere with this. Mm-hmm. So I just kept walking, but then, I walked back because there's a stretch that whatever Smudgy's always reactive on. And so I was like, whatever, I'm going to go by him. I want to prove to him that I'm not scared. I don't know what he thought. I think he thought that I was some asshole that let my dog poop and then walk off. But like,
well, I'm sure he's dealt with that before. Like, I'm sure there are people like that who go, no, he didn't poop. He didn't poop, you know?
But I was like, look, like, right. I don't know what to tell you. Mm-hmm. But it was one of those things where I feel like you're gonna be able to relate to this. Where like I couldn't shake it. Like I was like replaying like what could I have said to convince him that Smudgy didn't poop, or like how much like I am the person who picks up poop even in settings where it's like nobody's gonna know that he pooped here. Or
I thought you were gonna say
cares.
even in my bare hands, but no.
Or like I pick up my dog's poop.
Yeah.
That's one thing that I don't do a lot right, but I do that. And
That's isn't that your Twitter bio?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I pick up my dog's poop.
Mm-hmm.
And why it upset me so much, I don't like. I think because there's a lot of things that Smudgy does wrong, and that, but it's like this isn't it. Like we pick up his poop. That isn't how he disturbs the neighborhood. And
do you think it has anything to do with being unjustly accused of something?
Oh, 100%.
Like you just want to be right. Like you're right, and you want the other person to admit you're right in a sense. Like
right.
I do pick up his poop, and I need you to know that, you know?
Right. And also, like, I want to be like, sir, I don't like confrontation.
Mm-hmm.
If this happened and I didn't pick up his poop, I would probably just start picking up his poop. Like, there's no poop to pick up. Like, how can I get this?
Sir, listen to me very carefully. I am not a confrontational person.
I know. I see the irony. But yeah, I couldn't shake it. And I knew that it's just like, this guy is just having a bad day, and he's probably witnessed a lot of piece of shit dog owners. But I just wanted to be like, oh, sorry, thought that he pooped. Like, I don't know what would have made it okay.
Do you think there's a different strategy? Like,
I would love to know.
We just talked a couple of weeks ago, or maybe it was last week, about me hanging up on that person, and then they called me back to hang up on me, which I feel like is in a way kind of a similar thing, where I just got to a point where I was like, this person is wrong. I am right. I am not going to convince them that I am right and they are wrong. So I'm not interested in the conversation anymore, because that's the only direction that the conversation is going, is either you admit that I'm right or I admit that you're right, and you're not right. So I'm never going to admit it. And you're never going to admit that you're wrong. So end of conversation.
Right.
And then I hang up the phone, and then the person calls me back to hang up on me. So I'm just trying to think of like how you could, like, could you in this case go just to, just go, sir, I don't think your car is actually broken. I see what you're doing. You're just futzing with it to impress someone. I don't know if it's some girl you like or what, but I can tell that you're not actually fixing that car.
Right.
That
would have been incredible.
Just to change the subject off of whatever. Because, clearly changing the subject works.
Right. Well, and I'm also aware, like, I don't want to be a white lady who's screaming about being right in public right now. Like, that isn't the look. That's not so hot right now.
That would make you a Karen?
Yes. I wasn't going to say
you're a Karen because your dog did not poop, and you did not pick up a poop that didn't exist. So therefore, that makes you a Karen. Right. That's weird.
Well, that's why I was like hyper aware of, like, I kept being like, sir, like I was like, I'm not going to call him names. I'm going to be respectful. But it didn't help. I don't know.
What you didn't realize is that guy, his friends used to call him Big Sir because he was such an asshole at that. And so when you call him Sir, he thinks you're making fun of him.
Yeah. It also made me
It's hard not to know somebody's whole history and not, fuck something up.
Yeah, it's tough. It made me think, I don't know where I saw it. It must have been like on Twitter or something. But it's one of those, like, it's just stuck in my head forever. But this woman said that her dog hates walking, and he knows that when he's pooping, he doesn't have to walk. So he just pretends to poop like every few steps.
So that he doesn't have to, so he can just go home.
Well, and so that he could be taking a break.
Oh, I see. Okay.
But so she, because she knows that her neighbors are watching this dog poop, she has to go through the pantomime of pretending to pick up invisible poop every few steps. And I was like, it feels like that's the world. That scenario is what.
Right.
Like I should have just done this, I guess.
You're dealing with his preconceived notion, which he's not wrong about. He's been through that a million times where people don't pick up their poop, but you're not the one.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, people are making judgments about other people based on behaviors that are not theirs.
Right.
It's like the world in microcosm, basically.
Right.
You get blamed for stuff that you had nothing to do with, because people are like, everybody who walks a dog allows their dog to shit and then doesn't pick it up.
Right.
That's why the world is so fucked up right now.
Right.
Yeah, that's because I think you're right. The only way to solve that is if you saw that Smudgy had not pooped, but had made motions of pooping and went, I got it. It's okay. Don't worry about it. I'm picking it up right now.
Made a real big deal about it.
Excuse me, miss. Can I see the poop that's inside that bag? Because I feel like you went through the motions, but I didn't notice a noticeable hitch in the way you were holding your arm. So that seems that there's no weight there. Can I? Aha! See, I told you. You were fake. God, the world is a fucking nightmare right now. All right, parting shots. I honestly don't have anything. Like I my life is insane right now, and I'm a lot of meetings. But all kidding aside, it does feel like everything's happening at once. Like I'm working on like 5 different things, and somehow
they're all
of them are coming to a head at the same time. Which means I can't focus on any of them because I'm too busy focusing on all of them, you know? So that was bad planning on my part. And maybe I bit off more than I could chew. I was like, I could chew this. I could chew this too. I could also chew this.
Well, it's also gambling.
I'm chewing away.
It's gambling though. Like in the world, you're like, well, there's no chance that all of these are going to work out. So I'm going to put all these irons in the fire, and then one of them might pop. Right. And so the odds that all of them are progressing in any way, like there's no way that you would think or know that would be the case. Right.
But here's the difference. Or I'm trying to I'm trying to pursue the gambling analogy.
Okay, great.
And it's like there's a version of what you're saying as a gambling analogy that's like, I'm going to put, a bunch of chips on this bet, a bunch of chips on this bet, a bunch of chips on this bet, and a bunch of chips on this bet. Then we'll roll the dice and something will come up. One of them will hit. Not all of them. One of them will hit. So I'll lose all these chips, but I'll win on this, either we're going to roll snake eyes, or I'm going to get the combat, or I'm going to, I'm using the craps analogy there. But this is not that. What this is like,
you accidentally bet on the same.
No. I was going to say I'm playing like 6 different hands of poker at the same time, and I have a decent hand in each case. And now, you
don't want to fold any of them.
The cards are all on the table. Yeah. And I'm like, okay, I got this guy. What does he have? What does he have? What does he have? What does he have? Do I take a card here? Do I fold? Do I raise? Do I check? In all these different hands? So there's like a level of complication as opposed to
it's 3-dimensional.
Right. And it's making me a little bit fucking crazy right now. It's definitely having mental effects. Anyway, it's making me think that the word Trumpists rhymes with trumpets. So
almost.
Almost.
So good. Almost.
Sorry, buddy. Doesn't. It almost does. Do you know how rhymes work?
I mean, this is a longer story, but a lot of my week was taken up with the fact that it was discovered that Al Pacino has a Shrek phone case. I truly, Jeff showed me the article on Sunday night, and I was like, well, there goes my fucking week. And I was right. Like it ate up my whole week. I did other stuff, but we ended up, I'm going to try to condense this as much as possible, but there's a reason I started this story. So in response, we posted Shrek holding a phone case, and it's all Al Pacino faces. Very funny, very good. Good job, us.
From different movies like Godfather, Scent of a Woman.
Yeah. And Heat. So the rub
been in a lot of movies.
This is like, maybe I'm giving away too much industry knowledge, but whatever. The problem at first was Al Pacino's Shrek phone case. Hey, why does he have a Shrek phone case?
You know why he has a Shrek case and why he likes Shrek?
Why?
Because he's got a big ass. That's from Heat.
But it wasn't licensed. It wasn't like an official Shrek phone case. It was just some.
Ow! Come on, Al.
So while all this is happening,
it was actually a Shrek phone case,
right? Our consumer products people were like scrambling and came up with a Shrek phone case, and then today we had to promote the Shrek phone case. And I didn't come up with the copy. I'm not going to take credit for it. I thought it was funny and insane, but the copy along with the ad for the Shrek phone case was like, say hello to my little phone case. Good for any mothers, fathers, or godfathers. Okay, so we get it. It's multiple Al Pacino references, right? It made
never disagree with me with anybody outside of the Shrek.
Well, it made me think of this when you were talking about like the trumpet thing, because one of the comments was "or godmothers," and I was like,
"That is true. You got to be inclusive."
Sure,
you sexist.
It's a joke. There's a reason we said.
I mean, that was a different time. You know, you could get away with that kind of bullshit. Nowadays, the movie would have to be called The Godfather and the Godmother.
The Godparents. I just thought it was so funny that it was like, it's not a phone case for Godfathers. It's a reference, you guys. Like, what are you talking about?
Boss, I got good news. They came out with a phone case for you. What are you talking about? Look, it's Shrek. See, it's for Godfathers, and you're the Godfather. No, that's a reference to the movies.
Jeff really made me laugh this week too, because he's like, "What are you gonna do if it turns out that Robert De Niro has an abominable phone case?" Like all Joe Pesci as a boss baby. Like, what is happening?
Yeah. Yeah, it's tough to be in media, you know. It's tough to be in relating to pop culture.
But it was a fun week because of that. Like, it was fun to
try to figure out what to do.
Yeah, and
how can we exploit this to our advantage?
Well, no, the fact that we were creative and timely, we got a lot of positive response from people. We were written up in the New York Post about it, and the head of franchise marketing at Universal, who I guess is notoriously
tight-lipped.
Yes. He was like, "Wow, that was amazing, you guys." So like, that's cool.
He's the guy, he's like the Scrooge of the Universal, you know. Everyone's working Christmas Eve. Of course they are. And they have to pay for their own coal.
But yeah, check out the Shrek phone case.
So it's available now. You can buy a Shrek phone case. Is that right?
Yeah, but I'm not
Universal.
I'm not here to sell phone cases.
Today's episode is sponsored by Gelson's. Come on in and spend way too much. Also by Shrek phone cases. And what was the other one? I can't even remember who the other sponsor was. Folks, this has been the long shot. Do you have anything to plug? Do you want to plug besides Shrek phone cases?
No.
Because Universal could use the business they would get from this show.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it would give them a good second quarter in 2022. Hey, I'm the tight-lipped head of the Universal marketing department, and I got to tell you guys,
We saw that low show lift.
we did great in quarter two. Q2 was great. Thank you for everything. That's why I put this lump of coal on your desk. Folks, this has been The Long Shot. It is a podcast. It happens every week. Amber and myself are the hosts. You can find Amber at Universal Studios in Hollywood, California. And you can also find me in Hollywood, California. We will see you next time.
Good luck with all your projects.
Call HR Puffin Stuff.
Okay.
I'm still short of proof of what happened before. And now that it's true, what good is this memory for? And why do I love you with such a strong vigor? Which is the action and which is the trigger? It's mine to install, but it's yours to configure, and I'm gonna take all the blame. And why did we go with the planned obsolescence? It's cheaper, I know, but it's harsher in essence.